Okay, today we're going to talk about some of the most basic parts of using Photoshop. So the first thing is if you don't see this blue PS in a square on your desktop here, then go over here to your Start menu and look down here for Adobe Photoshop. Right, Adobe Photoshop CC, and then go ahead and click that icon. You can also search here for Photoshop and then click on that icon right there and it will launch. Once it launches, you will see the Photoshop icon. All right, to open a new document, you can just go up here to File, New, or Open. Go to File, Open, and then you can navigate anywhere on your desktop to open a new document. I already have a document open, so I'm going to go ahead and use this document. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is creating a new document. So if we were creating a new document, we would go to File, New, and then in here is the dialog box that we would use to create a new document. So this box right here is called a dialog box. All right. So right here at the top, you could put the name of your document. Call it New Document. And we have several different choices here. We have inches, centimeters, millimeters, but we're hardly ever going to use those in this class. We might use inches on occasion when resizing pictures, but most of the time we're going to be talking about things in terms of pixels, points, and picas. Okay, a pica is a term used in printing and it is equal to 1/6 of an inch. So there are 6 picas in 1 inch. A pixel is exactly that. It is one dot on the screen. And it relates to the resolution. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So, so whenever we're doing things in pixels, we might measure them by the size of the number of pixels in it. And then points also relates to printing. So pixels more relates to things on the screen, points and picas to things in printing. So let's go ahead and make a document that is in pixels. Notice your orientation. You can have a tall or wide, right, document. And so let's look at something in the range of, let's make it 400 pixels by 300 pixels. At 300, let's make that. So let's talk about resolution. There are many different resolutions. So in computers, used to be standard that everything was 72 dots per inch for resolution. In printing, various kinds of printing have standards set at 150, 200, and 300 dots per inch. 300 dots per inch is considered pretty high resolution printing. That is usually what you would reserve for photographs and things like that. Some really high definition photo printers might print at 600 dots per inch. Okay. Now, when we're talking about computer screens, every computer screen nowadays is different. Everything from high definition screens up to 4K displays. And so you have many different resolutions. So let's just go ahead with for this document, let's go ahead and do a 150 dots per inch. Okay, so you have different color modes. And in this class, we're really only going to use 3. And that is grayscale, which is black and white. So it uses only one color of ink. It's a one color profile, right? We can use RGB for things that we're going to have on the screen and CMYK for things that we would print. So RGB, since we're going to be looking at this on our screen. And then the background, you can change the color of the background to any color that you want, right? And so we're going to go ahead and see right here, you see hex colors. So right now we're just going to leave it as white. And we're not going to worry about the advanced options. So we're going to go ahead and hit create. So there is our 400 by 300 square. Okay, so we've created a brand new document. Now I'm going to go back. Now notice here up here at the top, I can click on the bridge document or I can click on my new document. So you see I have two different documents up here and I can go back and forth between the two. Okay, so we've talked about resolution and we've talked about document sizes. So let's talk about what happens when we save documents. So when we come up here, we want to save, and when we want to save something for the first time, you almost always want to choose save as. Okay. All right. So we get a brand new dialog box. Different. This is the save as dialog box. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is change the name of this thing. I don't like that name. We're just going to call it Nice Bridge. Okay. Now, right now it is a JPEG. Okay. That is the kind of file that it is. JPEGs are pretty decent for printing pictures, and they're not bad, but a little bit large for looking at pictures on your computer screen, especially if it's your phone. So what are some other ways that we can save this? There's a lot of them. We're not going to talk about all of them, but let's talk about this first one, a .psd. Okay, at the end of every file, it has a dot, especially graphics files. We're always going to have a dot something at the end of it. So pictures tend to be .jpeg or .jpeg. Okay, Photoshop documents in their natural form are .psds, and we'll talk about later why you want to keep them in their natural form, at least when you're working on them. Now when you're done working on a Photoshop document, you would want to save out a JPEG or some other thing. Okay, so we will use Photoshop in here. Then let's skip down. We already talked about JPEG. We might make PDFs, right? PDFs, it stands for Portable Document Format, and PDFs can be opened on nearly any computer, so that's why they're really useful. They can't be changed, but they are really useful for that. We will also use PNGs, .png files. PNG can be transparent, and so that's why we will use PNG files. And then that's probably it. We won't use any of these others except when we make some animated GIFs. Okay, some people call it GIF, but it stands for Graphical Interchange Format, and graphical doesn't start with graphical, so it is a GIF. Don't let anybody else fool you. All right, so those are the ones that you need to know: Photoshop PSD, CompuServe GIF, JPEG, and PNG. Okay, those are the file types that we're going to use in this class. So it's going to ask you for the options. I like to always save my files at maximum. So if it doesn't show maximum, if it shows low or medium or whatever, pull it all the way down to maximum and click OK. All right. So now you notice it changed it up here to say Nice Bridge. So I have new document and I have Nice Bridge. So let's go to our new document. Let's talk a little bit about the setup of the desktop and of layers, because layers are going to be very important. So up at the top we have all these different menus, right? We have File, Edit, Image, Layer, Type, Select, Filter, 3D View, Window, and Help. So a lot of times I'm going to say go to the whatever menu, right? Like right now, I'm going to say go to the window menu and then go to workspace. So you see how I clicked on it one time and then I just pull my arrow down without doing anything else. I'm not holding the button on the mouse. I just bring the arrow down and then I bring it over and I'm going to change the workspace to photography. Okay, and now I'm going to change it back. So I'm going to go to window, workspace, and it should be on essentials default. So if your workspace doesn't say Essentials Default on your computer, then go ahead and move it back to Essentials Default. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. All right, we're going to talk about layers. So here's the layers panel right here. I'm going to pull it over here so you can see it. These panels, as you see, can be moved. I'm just moving this over here so that it's more obvious. I'm going to stretch it out, okay? And notice that it has layers, channels, and paths. Right now, all I care about is layers. So right now, we have one layer on this document. I want you to think of layers as clear pieces of plastic that you can draw on or do whatever on, and then you can stack them on top of each other, okay? So this first layer is my bottom layer right now, the background layer. It's my only layer, but that's it. Notice it has this little lock symbol right here. That means that the layer is locked. Now it's unlocked, okay, because I clicked on it. I can lock it back, I think. Well, we're not going to worry about that right now, okay? So let's talk about adding something on top of it. So right here, down at the bottom of the layers tablet, right, I have some little tiny icons. I have this FX and then this little square and a little circle and a folder and this little, looks like a piece of paper with the corner turned up. That is the new layer icon. So I'm going to click that right now. You notice it created a brand new layer and it has this little checkerboard pattern called the moire pattern. It's a French word. I don't know if it means checkerboard, but anyways, that's what that pattern is in French, is moire. And I'm just going to call it the checkerboard pattern because it's too hard to say. And what that means is that that layer right now is completely invisible. So I can see through it to the white layer underneath. So over here right now I have red. If you look on my palette to the left, I have red, and I'm going to use red, that's fine. So, and I'm going to go to my shape tool. Right now, don't worry too much about the tools. We're going to go over those in a minute. And I'm going to make a round circle. And there it is. I now have a red circle. Okay? It calls it an ellipse, but I want to call it a circle. So I'm going to double click on this and click and then rename it circle. It's always good to name your layers. So I'm going to name layer 0 here background. How did I do that? I just double clicked on it and then it allows me to edit the name of the layer. Okay. So now I'm going to add another layer. So I'm going to go back over here on my little paper, my turned up corner paper, and I'm going to click new layer. And I'm going to change this to blue. And I'm going to make a square this time. Or maybe a rectangle. How about a rectangle? So now I have a blue rectangle. Okay. So you can see now that the blue rectangle is on top of the red circle. Now what if I move the rectangle below? Like, you see how I move it until that line, that blue line appears? Then I let go, and now the red circle is on top of the blue rectangle, which is on top of the white background. So you see how layers are very important, because what is on top of something is now more important than what is below it. So I'm going to go to my red circle layer now, and I can still move that red circle around, but I have to be on the red circle layer.